A single signature can change the course of history, and tonight, the House of Windsor trembles under the weight of one decree. King Charles and Princess have redrawn the map of royal power, and the name missing from that historic document has left Buckingham Palace whispering and the world gasping. Where once Queen Camilla stood, now stands Princess Catherine, the future queen, suddenly thrust into the heart of decision-making. Is this the moment the monarchy begins to truly shift its power to the next generation? Stay with us as we unravel the hidden story behind this royal earthquake. Before we go deeper, hit subscribe and tap the bell, because here we bring you the inside story the headlines only hint at. The announcement landed without fanfare, no balcony waves, no solemn addresses. Just a quiet drop from Buckingham Palace that rippled across the world within minutes. The decree, a formal restructuring of the councillors of state and emergency advisors to the crown. But the shock was in the omission. Queen Camilla, long considered Charles's closest ally, was removed from key advisory positions. In her place, Princess Catherine, the Princess of Wales, explicitly named with new powers to act on matters of family welfare and royal continuity. For royal watchers, this wasn't just paperwork, it was a declaration, a recalibration of power at the very core of the monarchy, hinting at the era to come. To understand the magnitude of this moment, one must step back into the gilded yet fragile world of Britain's royal institution. King Charles, a monarch who waited over 70 years for his crown, ascended with promises of continuity, and yet, almost immediately, whispers of reform began. Princess Anne, the workhorse royal, with her relentless calendar and unshakable loyalty, became a pillar during Charles's early reign. And then there was Catherine Young, poised, adored by the public, her approval ratings eclipsing those of almost every royal figure alive today. Camilla, once the most controversial woman in Britain, had risen remarkably from reviled mistress to crowned queen. But with Charles's health increasingly a matter of public concern, the balance of power was always going to shift. Few expected it to happen like this, swiftly, silently, and so visibly favoring the Wales household. The document itself is a technical masterpiece, reshaping the list of councillors who can act on the monarch's behalf during incapacity or absence. Traditionally, the monarch's spouse is central to this list. For decades, it was unquestioned, from Prince Philip's silent influence to Queen Mother's dignified presence. But this decree struck Camilla's name from the crucial sections. Instead, it elevated Catherine not as a ceremonial figurehead, but as an active, authorized participant in decision-making, particularly on family welfare and public engagements. This is more than symbolic. It gives the Princess of Wales legal standing in times of crisis, the ability to represent the monarchy's interests when the king is indisposed, with Princess Anne as the enforcer and William as heir apparent. Inside Buckingham Palace, corridors buzzed. Staff who had worked loyally under Charles and Camilla for decades exchanged hushed words. Courtiers, ever discreet, noted the weight of the signatures. Charles, deliberate and firm. Catherine, silent yet rising. Camilla's absence from the decree was explained as mutual agreement, a phrasing designed to soothe speculation. But few believed such a monumental change came without friction. Online hashtags erupted. Hashtag Royal Power Shift, hashtag Catherine Rises, and hashtag Where is Camilla trended globally. Royal commentators debated whether this was a pragmatic response to the king's health, or the first visible sign of an internal fracture. As the sun set on Windsor that evening, the document's impact settled over the kingdom like a winter frost, quiet, cold, but undeniably present. For Catherine, it was the most public confirmation yet of her influence, her future not merely as William's consort, but as an architect of the monarchy's survival. For Camilla, it was a retreat, perhaps voluntary, perhaps strategic, perhaps both. But history will note the moment. The Queen's name, absent from the page, the Princess's name, etched in its place. This was no tabloid scandal, no fleeting whisper. This was a structural reshaping of the monarchy itself. And it is only the beginning. Excellent, let's continue seamlessly with Act 2. Whispers in the corridors, 30:00, 60:00. This act peels back the layers behind the announcement. The secret meetings, the familial calculations, and the first cracks of tension that led to Queen Camilla's quiet exclusion and Catherine's striking rise. Behind the stone walls of Balmoral and Windsor, this decree did not materialize overnight. It was the product of months of hushed deliberations, midnight briefings, and handwritten notes exchanged behind closed doors. King Charles, though outwardly calm in public, carried the dual weight of duty and vulnerability, his health an ever-present variable, his legacy a fragile construct still being assembled. Princess Anne, steadfast as the Highlands she so adores, played a pivotal role. Insiders describe her as the lever and the lock, not just executing her brother's wishes but shaping them. Her reputation for cutting through sentiment to reach the marrow of pragmatism gave her unique influence in this drafting process. Catherine's presence in these discussions began subtly. Initially, she was a figure of stability, the ever-graceful Princess of Wales, mother of 3, recovering from her own health challenges while maintaining public poise. But in private, her counsel became sought after. Her experience with early childhood initiatives, her steady hand with the public, and her increasingly close relationship with and positioned her as a bridge between 2 generations. This was not an overnight coronation of influence. It was a steady build, brick by brick, through years of quiet dedication. Her meetings with Charles often revolved around public perception, how to sustain the monarchy's relevance, how to modernize without breaking the fabric of tradition. Meanwhile, Camilla's role began to narrow. Officially, she remained devoted, championing literacy, animal welfare, and domestic violence prevention. But her schedule grew lighter. Public appearances were trimmed, speeches shortened. In palace briefings, her name recurred less often. Part of this was strategic, a response to the king's health needs, allowing him fewer overlapping obligations. Part, too, was political. Whispers that William, protective of his own children's path, sought to streamline the monarchy, removing what he privately called unnecessary spokes in the wheel. Payments to Camilla's sister, once quietly processed through duchy channels, were cut by William's directive, a signal that the next generation was already drawing fiscal boundaries. The turning point, sources suggest, came at a Balmoral retreat during the summer of 2024. The king, still recovering from early treatments, convened a private family council, and William, Catherine, and a small circle of trusted aides. Camilla attended part of the weekend, but not all the sessions. It was there that drafts of the revised decree were first laid on the table. And ever the realist argued that relying on non-working royals or controversial figures was a vulnerability. Harry and Andrew were already out of the question. Edward, though reliable, was not a long-term keystone. Catherine, she argued, represented both continuity and public confidence. Camilla's name, in those drafts, remained, but as the months passed, it began to fade. While palace aides perfected their discretion, the outside world caught glimpses of the brewing change. Leaked memos, vague tabloid hints, and even betting odds began to circulate. Social media, with its unrelenting appetite for intrigue, turned fragments into theories. Was Camilla stepping back voluntarily to protect her husband's health? Was this Anne's assertion of old guard control? Or was this the opening move in a long game to ensure Catherine's dominance when William ascends? Royal watchers pored over seating charts, handshake footage, even the tilt of hats at Trooping the Color, searching for meaning where the palace gave none. By the time the decree was ready for signature, the stage had been set. Camilla, by then, had quietly aligned herself with causes outside the machinery of power, and had signed off the final draft. William, ever discreet, offered his blessing. Catherine remained the silent center of the chessboard, neither pushing nor resisting, yet unmistakably poised to inherit the game. And so, when Buckingham Palace released its understated announcement, the machinery that had been grinding in secret for over a year finally revealed its product. To the public, it felt sudden. To the palace, it was overdue.